For years, GBGuns viewers have known about the Tisas Zagana PX9s. The original, I'm sorry, is a little bit camera shy today and wanted to stay in the safe, but I've got the Gen 2 here, the Gen 3 Duty, and the Gen 3 Tactical. And you may recall these really impressed us. Significant upgrades from Gen 2 with the latest generation, and that trigger should look familiar if you read my top list of striker-fired triggers published not too long ago. I guess maybe last year or so, but really phenomenal guns at a great price. Now we've got the comp version. Tabletop review and field strip coming up next on GBGuns! Tisas has long been, in my mind, a source of great value. Quality guns at an affordable price. Been following them through the years, throughout different importers over time. Of course, now there's Tisas USA through SDS Arms, proving that they are definitely here to stay. This model is an update on the Gen 2s. Tactic is like always talking about Tisas guns again. Opening up the case, you can see that we get an open top style holster, but it does indeed cover the trigger guard. We get two magazines, one of which has an extended base plate on it. We've got tools for changing out the mag release button. More on that in a bit. Different back straps and the hardware inside to conceal some things. If you're not familiar with the PX9s, just like some of the, well, that's the Gen 2. Let me get something a little more modern here. There we go. This one's having an optic identity crisis at the moment. The side panels and back straps are interchangeable. You get 3 different options for each of the 3 positions, which gives you 27 different possible grips that you can set up on these guns. That's what these are. Up top, we have our brush. We have, seems to be an aluminum magwell, and this magwell is a departure from the previous design, which was polymer, and had kind of a, it was aggressive, but not as aggressive as this. Do notice right away that this is not flaring out the backside like this does, which I appreciate. For carry, flaring out the back can create a high point, a high spot. It makes it easy for printing, and if you have large hands like I do, that can also be something that digs into your hand, whereas extra flare on the front turns into a pinky scoop control for finding your dot if you're a person who uses red dots, and doesn't get in the way of concealment. We have replacement fiber optics, though this sight is not fiber optic. That's interesting. And then our manual. Yes, I go over the manual on this channel for a couple reasons. For one, it shows the YouTube overlords that me field stripping this pistol is not disassembling, it's not building a gun. It is, however, basic end user level knowledge and important for safety and knowing function of the gun. The other reason is to take a look at how well the company wants you to understand the product. Here we've got renderings. Renderings have the advantage of being able to highlight or color code things. This is a simple 4-color manual. Yes, that's what they call black, white, and red. I don't know where the 4th color comes in. I don't work in printing. No specific funky notes in here. This is basically the same manual that you get with the other models. There's all of your specs. You can pause and convert things into standard, or if you check the pinned comment, I'll have all the specs in American over at my site. No notes on ammunition either. That's a question I always get. Can it shoot +P? Generally, these Turkish manufactured guns are built around NATO ammunition, which is 10% higher pressure than standard US SAMI spec. You know what else is 10% higher than SAMI spec? Is +P. So if it can run NATO, it can run +P. However, nothing's stated in there. This is a long enough barrel that you don't need +P. However, it being ported, one of the big things on the comp model, of course, with it being ported, having extra gassy ammunition can help give you a little more porting effect. Let's get all this stuff out of the way and actually take a look at the gun. Real quick, for those of you already familiar with the PX9 series, what's different about this? Well, we've got the major one being that it is a ported barrel and slide, and the barrel appears to be backboard to the port. That's important because ports, if you're using plated ammunition, there's a chance of the plate getting scraped off by the opening of the port. the plating that's serving as the jacket on the bullet. That gets ejected out the port, flying in a random direction, nice and hot, and can impact accuracy as well as lead to unpleasant surprises. This being backboard, it's not an issue, so you don't have to worry about the ammunition. We have different slide cuts, it's a little more detailed. We see it's optics ready, and the trigger has changed a bit. We'll do trigger talk now. Now the triggers on these I've always thought was excellent. Safety works. Light take up to the wall. Pretty clean break. Reset is longer but takes you right back in front of the wall. The reset is very soft. So riding the reset on this might be difficult, but for the currently in mode fashion of shooting, of pulling and releasing, that's not going to be a problem at all. And it's still one of my favorite striker fired triggers on the market today. The additional changes we have, you saw the difference of the new magwell. We also have a thumb rest style takedown lever. You can see it sticks out just enough to give you a spot to put a thumb on. And of course we have this different trigger style, which is aluminum and a nice broad flat face to it. A little more detail on it than on the original. And our magazine release buttons are extendable. You can see it comes fairly well extended. That could be a problem depending on your use case and your hand size. I say that because extended mag releases are great for competition, bad for everyday carry type things, depending on your holster. Sometimes they get bumped in holsters, but Tisas and SDS Arms are giving you options right out of the box. You can swap those out easily. Now we'll get on with our standard tabletop video. Of course, begins with checking to see first if we're clear. We've already done that on video though. And do we get magazine ejection or release? With the slide locked to the rear to remove any pressure, we push the button and you see we get a little bit of kick there. That's nice. It's not enough to quite fully eject, but it's more than most. And of course, having a steel-bodied magazine in a polymer grip, there's minimal friction there, so it comes out easily. These are Metgar magazines. As you can see, they're set up for ambi release, and as you can see on the gun, the release button is the same shape on both sides, meaning it's reversible. Witness windows are on the right side at the typical kind of standard European low, medium, full, and of course empty would be your follower, black followers in this case. I'm drawing a blank at the moment as to which pattern magazine these are, but they are a common one. I'm sure someone will say it in the comments. I know I've said it in the other videos. If I recall, I'll get that in the pinned comment for you. Alright, with that out of the way, drop the slide. In fact, let's check since we have ambi controls. How's it work on this side? Nice and clean. Well done, Tisas. The trouble with ambi slide releases is the actual physical catch is happening on the other side of the gun, or here. So when you drop from here, it's very easy. When you go to drop from the other side, there is a transfer of mechanical energy and some flexing and some loss of efficiency there that can lead to sometimes difficult ambi-sided or left-handers slide releases. I'm happy to say that it's no problem here. We also see the barrel is marked as match grade on here. And we do have some different cuts on top than we did on the previous standard ones. Coming around to the front of the gun, we do have a little bit of slide to frame play. That is a good thing. It's a basic thing. People worry about it for reliability. That actually adds to reliability. People worry about it for aiming. Your sights are attached to it. So not a problem there at all. And if you're using a dot, you probably won't notice, as if you could even notice with irons in the first place. Not worried about it. Underneath, we've got plenty of rail space. And our serial plate, we have texture on the front of the trigger guard here, and a little bit of a hook for those that want to do the European style support hand hook up there. You notice they left the texturing for the memory spots, both sides, even though we do have this enhanced takedown lever serving as a bit of a gas pedal. You saw our trigger earlier. We do have, oh no, it's just the Tisas mark. I thought I felt some grip underneath the trigger guard to add a little traction there, which I've seen some companies do. Is that effective or not? I don't know, because I don't know about you guys, but my finger's pretty rolly right there. So having good traction between trigger guard and the top of that finger doesn't really do much good. You notice my, so I wear double XL glove hands, and I can get my whole hand on the gun. That's because this is a full-size grip, but it fits very comfortably. There's one suggested finger groove that's nice and broad, works well for my hands. And we have smooth edges here, so there's no Glock knuckle going on there. You can see this is like a softer version of the fissure texture kind of stuff. It's not sharp. You can rub it on your skin and it's not going to chafe. Great for carry. It does make it seem like it would be less grippy. However, once you hold on to it, it really does lock in well with the hand. We do have a little bit of beveling underneath in our magazine well. That'll of course be dramatized when we add the mag well, which I will do for the review. The changing out the grips, I can't show you on YouTube. The non-English speaking folks that do the moderation get confused and they think that's gunsmithing. You drive that pin out, slide off the rear, and then the sides slide out. There are 27 different possible ways to set up this grip. So depending on your hand and how your hand wraps around, I suggest first experimenting with enlarging this side, and then maybe experiment with enlarging this side, regardless of your hand size. Reason being, the bigger around the grip is, the more surface area there is to get your support hand on there. Opening up your firing hand, as long as you still have a comfortable grip, gives you room for support hand grip. So just keep that in mind. Slide the frame fit in the back, a little bit of wobble is all. You can see we do have our striker indicator sticking out. I pull it, it's gone. We have serrated blacked out rear sight and a white dot front sight, and of course it's optics ready, I believe, for the RMR cut. There's your pattern, and it did come with a plate as well. We have loaded chamber indicator on top, which was not on the earlier ones, as is an interesting add-on. You can see through the light there. That will pop up. Let's see how much it pops up. I'm going to chamber a snap cap. You can see there's no primer there, and we have plastic on the end. Ooh, so not a whole lot visually. There's a little tiny dot in there, but you can definitely feel it. I like that. That was something, one of my early guns for a house gun, that's actually still a house gun, had that same feature, and what I enjoyed about it was in the dark I could feel if a round was chambered or not. It's just a simple way of checking when you can't see, or if something's been in a holster, or you've loaned it to somebody, things like that. It's just a simple safety thing for that to be popped up. We'll find out eventually, after mounting a dot, if that's going to lead to spitting gases onto the dot. A lot of companies trying to save a buck, not wanting to do a device like that, just have a little hole cut in the hood of the barrel, and as a result you get gases jetting on the glass of your optic, which is not very fun in today's gotta have an optic day. Coming on the right side of the gun, we know our magazine release is reversible. We've got the catch there. Overall, everything looks good so far, so let's field strip and take a look inside the gun. To field strip, we begin with a slide locked to the rear like this. We're going to rotate this lever down, just like that. Release the slide and the striker, and the slide will come off the front. Inside you can see our beautiful steel construction, nice, big, beefy rails. This is something that I've come to admire about a lot of these guns, is that they're relatively overbuilt by what we're accustomed to from some other makers, and I like that. That's, to me, it speaks to longevity, it speaks to being able to take some abuse. Looking in our slide, you can see we have a dual spring recoil assembly, which is all metal. It's nice. I found that dual springs like that tend to make the gun easier to rack. They also tend to result in softer recoil because the resistance builds as the slide comes rearward. We'll knock our barrel down, bring it out, and we can take a look inside the slide. Nice clean construction. There's our safety, and you can tell that this was test fired at the factory. Next, we'll take a look at chamber fit on the barrel. Chamber fit is done with a piece of Liberty Ammunition Civil Defense. It is nickel plated, which is corrosion resistance, great for a round that I'm going to be handling like this. Also reduces friction. We're going to drop it into the barrel. Listen for a plunk like that. And then we want to see how much brass beyond the shoulder is exposed, if any, and it looks like next to none. I would call this a fully supported chamber. That's an important thing to know should you have a case rupture. For example, overpressured ammunition, poor case quality, reloaded ammunition, things like that. A fully supported chamber helps keep all of that pressure, the 35,000 psi, going out the barrel. When it's not a fully supported chamber and the brass wants to rupture, it's going to rupture where it's not supported and send some of that 35,000 psi into your grip, which means into your hand. Now I'll reassemble this by simply reversing the disassembly process, and as I do that I'll tell you what you can expect to see in the range video. Got some Tactikitty hair in here already somehow. How did you do that, cat? You'll see my absolute first shots through the gun. That's right, no warm-ups, no practice. I don't do highlight reels, I don't do fail reels. I turn on the camera, I start shooting, and give you those initial impressions, because those initial impressions are important, and that's something that you too will have when you shoot the gun. Then as I begin to learn the gun, we'll do full magazine +1, see how the magazines run fully stuffed, how the gun runs fully stuffed as well. Take it over to the trademark What's for Dinner table to see what the gun will eat, which includes 10 more loads. Then to the spinner for sights and trigger control, which would be interesting to see with this port here, if I can stay on target faster, longer. 5 shots from 7 yards for practical accuracy at a 1-inch square, followed by my concluding thoughts. All of the specs, where to find one, what they cost, that kind of stuff can be found in the pinned comment. As always, I will also be doing a versus comparative, I believe, between this and let's go with the Duty, using AccuShoot in the future over on the second channel. That is the PX9 Duty comp. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the range.
Thank you to our Patreon supporters. GBGuns.